Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at purposely.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Gospel Tech Podcast. My name is Nathan Sutherland, and this podcast is dedicated to helping families love God and use tech. I had the opportunity to go to a conference this weekend and was asked frequently about what do we do if tech is unhealthy? And I love this question because it has such a practical answer. It isn't easy, but it is simple. In the idea that we can first check and see, is the tech that we're giving our kids safe? If our kid has asked for an egg, are we actually giving him or her an egg? Or is it a scorpion and we need to just stop here and find an alternative? Then once we've determined this is an egg and I can lovingly give this to my child, we ask, is it good? I guess I would ask, are they ready is the second part. Is my child ready for this good thing? So nothing wrong with the technology, or if there is something wrong, it's appropriate for the age, but what about my child at this age? Are they ready for this? And then third and finally, is it good? I look at the fruit of something that was safe and my child should have been ready for. They proved faithful in other things. Is the fruit good though? And those are the three things we need to look at when giving technology to our children, when teaching them how to love God first, and then from their love of God to use the best tech well. It needs to be safe. They need to be ready, and the fruit needs to be good. And I say I love this because it is not something that I dreamt up. It is a process of years of conversations with families, of my conviction that we don't have to be scared of technology, and that technology must take second priority to our faith walk with the Lord. So with those convictions, this conversation has been a boon for families. And I have found it consistently to be something that equips them and encourages them. So let's jump right into it. Safe, ready, good. First, is this technology safe? When my, what would he have been, 6-year-old eldest son in kindergarten asked me, when do I get a cell phone? And I was like, why would you ask me this? And he said, because other kids in my class have cell phones. He was going to a school in our area at that time that allowed technology in the room, even for kindergartners. And I was like, what are your 6-year-old friends doing with their phones, buddy? And like, they're playing games. The same thing I want to do on my phones. Like, yeah, no. And it's not because I'm against people having fun or playing games. I am against those kinds of entertainment devices in a learning environment. But more importantly, for my 6-year-old, like, the thing you're asking me for is inherently unsafe. A smartphone is by design a device that is supposed to deliver you apps, and a massive majority of those apps are built around distraction. They're built around entertainment technology. It is not there to help you grow as an individual or accomplish your goals. It is there to keep your eyes on a screen, to take your time, focus, and money. We call this technology drool tech as compared to tool tech, which helps you create. Drool tech helps you consume. It's not good and bad per se, meaning there's no moral wrongness in this all the time. Certainly, some of them are. But the moral wrongness isn't there. It's the purposefulness of it. What is its goal? I love to use the example of Microsoft Word for tool tech and YouTube for drool tech. Microsoft Word never follows up with notifications. It doesn't have any microtransactions as part of it. It doesn't send you any goals or set you any points or tell you that you've reached 10,000 words, but for $195, you could get unlimited words for the next 24 hours. It does not do that. It just lets you write and save and share and edit, and then it waits. And it will wait forever if you never come back to it. Compare that to YouTube, where YouTube is very motivated to keep you for just a little bit longer. So you went to watch one video that was maybe very purposeful about your project you're working on, and then it's going to suggest videos and ask you, well, but did you know about? And I really do think that YouTube is like the digital version of Costco. Like, there are things on there that I didn't even know I wanted until they suggest them for me. And then I'm like, I don't know how I lived without this. That is the power of YouTube. And it's not bad, because there are some amazing things that will make your life more joyful and more full, and maybe even expand your knowledge in an area you're passionate about. And there's a good chance you clicked on that next video and spent time in your life, not because you wanted to, but because tech suggested it. So that is the first thing we're talking about. What am I giving my child with a smartphone? Well, when my 6-year-old son said, Dad, can I have a smartphone? The answer is no, because on its face, it's unsafe for a 6-year-old, because the thing is built around modifying behavior in order to take your time, focus, and money. And my 6-year-old son didn't even have the part of his brain that allows him to inhibit those kinds of decisions. That frontal cortex that allows us to inhibit behaviors as adults It's not developed in a 6-year-old or a 12-year-old or a 16-year-old. A 26-year-old, they've got it, but we do need time and space to at least build behavioral norms, since we can't rely on biological inhibitions to carry us through when bad ideas get suggested to us, like a notification comes and says, hey, keep your streak alive at 2 a.m. A 14-year-old brain will probably do that. So that is an inherently unsafe gift our child is asking for, and we need to say, no, that's not safe. Another example would be something like TikTok. This is inherently unsafe. It is designed for retention in the American market. It is a significantly more toxic version, meaning that content it will give your child in order to try to increase engagement generally goes to the furthest extremes much faster than even something like Instagram or something like YouTube would. YouTube does work on retention, but it doesn't work on retention in the extremes like TikTok does. And there's, probably 3 years ago now, Wall Street Journal did a great research piece where they started 10 profiles and then they let these profiles just run and see like what happens and how quickly these profiles had a primary objective, like I'm interested in sports, and a secondary, and I'm lonely. And then they watched how quickly TikTok picked up on those profile focuses, and then how quickly it drove them to the most extreme aspects of that, either the injury side or the trauma side or the self-harm and the disordered eating. And like it's not good. So that's inherently unsafe. It should not be put in front of young children, or something like relational AI. Common Sense Media, this 2020, maybe it was late 2025 or early 2026, ran a review over relational AI. So this is ChatGPT, relational.ai, what is it? Relationship.ai? Relation.ai. Anyway, there are a number of their AI conversational bots that have been designed to feel like a friend. These are inherently unsafe for young people. And that's the takeaway of Common Sense Media, is the number of risks we run into and the number of safeguards we have in order to make sure minors are put in a position for high success does not add up. Yes, some kids might feel better in talking to these things, but the number of times that can go off the rails and the number of times we're seeing it go off the rails, where the news is popping up more and more and more stories about young people reaching horrific conclusions to these relationships when what they needed was professional care, family intervention, loving, analog real world relationships. And instead what they got was a chat bot that is designed to retain them on the screen rather than to get them to be healthy and safe. And those things are tragic and they can be avoided. And young people, this is inherently unsafe. So when we're talking about egg versus scorpion, smartphones, TikTok, relational AI would be 3 examples that these are just unsafe on their face. With that being said, we're talking about children. Adults take all sorts of risks. They drive at freeway speeds and they make all sorts of decisions on the daily that are calculated risks. We're not taking calculated risks with our children. We are saying this is inherently unsafe. Our children are not yet fit to deal with scorpions. There will come a day where we raise them into that, which is what we're looking at. Because the second piece is, well, are they ready? Oh, let's talk about the positive side. What are things that are inherently safe? So if it's tool tech and there's nothing else added, inherently safe. Doesn't mean it'll be a great mix with your kid, but inherently safe. So chess.com. Chess.com is inherently safe because it's designed to let you play chess. Yes, there's some points involved. You can play competitive if you want. You can just play a bot. You can watch some lessons. Like, it is just a website built around that. Khan Academy. You can go online. There are absolutely some rewards and feedbacks. I use this with my students so they can see the amount of skills they've increased in specific areas. So 6th grade, we're using Unit 1, Unit 4, and I want to say Unit 3, but like ratios, percentages, and rates. This is what we're covering. We did it. We have some assessments you can reassess. And if you want more practice, this is a great way to do it at home. Take 10 to 15 minutes before you play your video games, before you go and do something else, before you go to practice. Like, just take 10 to 15 minutes. Or if you're waiting at practice for the next game or whatever, like, take your 10 to 15 minutes, get this math in. Like, it's a great way for an additional touch. It's tool tech. I would compare that to Duolingo, which feels very educational. But the pivot is Duolingo is always pressing you for an upgrade. And then once you have the upgrade, it's always pressing you for those extra 50 to 100 points. Like, hey, you're almost bumped out of this league. Maybe you should do one more lesson. And again, helping you accomplish your goal. But why? Because tech is suggesting it. Khan Academy does not do that. It will send you a notification and say, here's your week summary. Good for you. And then just, it leaves it. You can motivate yourself if you want. You can just watch it if you don't. That is important to know when we think about these kinds of technology. There is inherently safe tech that is tool tech, operates at the pace of real life, that has no incentives baked into it, no behavioral training, no infinite feed, no notifications, no point and reward system, no levels that you can get bumped up or demoted down, no social anxiety artificially added by likes and followers, or by streaks and timelines where you have to come in for this many days in order to get these rewards and you get sent little nasty grams. I got one actually from chess.com. This is a good reminder. This is a little thing on chess.com where I got one that was like, Magnus Carlsen's the world leading chess player. And it was like, the difference between you and chess.com, or the you and Magnus never quits on chess. I was like, whoa, hey, leave me alone. I'm living my life over here. But it actually was chess. Con might be the standalone for not sending me nastygrams. Other inherently safe would be anything that, again, helps you accomplish your goals. So if it's a video editing program, audio editing program, game design program, so something, say, like Unity, or Scratch, it doesn't set any goals for you. You can go and accomplish it. You can walk away and it doesn't bother you. So even creating a video game can be tool tech that is not inherently unsafe. All right. Now then, let's look at, is my child ready? Because there is a level of risk that we go, you know what? My child is of an appropriate age. So for getting access to a smartphone, love to say 16 or 15 minimum, and then social media at 16. But most kids only want phones because they want social media. So 16 for that. All right, so my child's 16. My child has asked for social media and a smartphone. My child has shown responsibility in grades, in relationships, in their faith walk, in their sleep routine, in taking feedback when I have to correct them, in being coachable from other individuals. So often through sports and school is where we'll see that they make a mistake, they're working and doing their best, and they can receive feedback and say, yes, I can adapt because a more experienced and knowledgeable person who cares about me gave me feedback. They can do all that. So then I say, okay, I believe my child is ready. They're showing the emotional, the spiritual, the physical maturity to be able to take on a larger task. They're doing it in real life. We're going to extend this to digital spaces. And I'm going to take something that isn't inherently safe and give them some independence with it. So they get a lockdown phone and they get to walk around with it and they get to text a certain number of friends, or they get to make these phone calls, or they get this one app that their sports team has and they're not using it through my phone anymore. They're now using it through their phone. Okay. And now you still have accountability in place. There's still hedges. There's still bedtimes. We're not just throwing them out in the wild and saying, hope you make the good life choices, but we're allowing them an appropriate amount of risk. So is the technology safe? Then are they ready? And if they are ready, we can give them these things that may not be inherently safe. That's where okay, let me walk into that a little bit. I have young people who've come to me and been like, yeah, but my parents won't give me this technology that I really want. And that's taking one of two directions. Either this young person does in fact have parents that are they're living in fear, and then maybe they've made bad choices, or they had an older sibling that made bad choices, and the parents are just like, no, we're not even going to give you the chance to make a bad choice because we're going to police this so heavily, you'll never make a mistake. That's one side of it. The other side is the child is, I don't know what you would say, selectively remembering. And there may have been a situation in the past where they were given a chance. It went real, real bad. And the parents are trying to find a way to build enough trust with this young person and allow them an appropriate amount of risk. But that child needs to show a certain level of responsibility. There was a young man who had committed a felony the last time he was given a phone, and was just demanding that he be given it again. And his argument was, I'm going to get one when I'm 18 anyway, so you should just give it to me now. There's a certain kind of logic to that. It's not good logic, but it's there. And as we think about that, his parents very lovingly said, hey, you clearly aren't sorry about what happened last time. You're not saying you're going to change or that you have changed. In fact, you're basically just promising you're going to do the same thing again. It's just now or later. So we're going to opt for later, praying for a heart change. And if you do turn 18 and buy this with your own money and go on this tear of life choices that you're saying you're going to do, that's between you, the US government, and God. Like at that point, you've reached adulthood on all the fronts you need. You're welcome to work a job, get your own rent, have your own money and phone, and make your own mistakes. Like, I'm not happy about it. I'm praying against that. I pray the Lord will capture your heart and prove to you that he is better than what you want to do. And I recognize that this is a reality, but I won't be party to it. Like, I'm not going to start that early when you're 15 or 16 just because you plan on doing it when you're 18. And parents, that's a very intentional, loving response. But between those two, we have 2 kids, neither of them with a phone, but for very different reasons. And I would argue the first child should be found a way to engage this technology if they've asked for it and they've proven themselves responsible. We need to find a way to say yes. Within our comfort, within our ability to parent, if we cannot afford the accountability that goes with it, don't do it, right? Don't buy the car if you can't get the seat belts. Like, that is not the spot to skimp when it comes to safety of our children. We bought the thing that can do the damage. We've got to buy the things that can mitigate the harm. So it allows us to parent it well and lovingly. We want to make sure that we take the effort. So we're putting in the time and the focus, which is hard, and the finance to make this device as safe as possible within reason. And that would be some form of network accountability for our Wi-Fi at home, some form of device accountability like Bark or Covenant Eyes, depending the needs and the individual. Custodio is probably as far as I'm willing to go. And the parenting side, especially for that young man with a previous felony, Custodio can be very solid in terms of a little more granular parenting and control for a device that's very, very tricky. These things do not default to safety. So I understand something like a Custodio, especially for someone who does want to make good choices and wants support. And that Custodio can be a great kind of training wheels on that. I just don't see it as a long-term solution. I don't see adults asking other adults to keep that level of granular control on them. I believe by the time we're there, we need to be thinking about living life without this smart of a device. How can we just brick this thing effectively, or go to a dumber device and get the job and the lifestyle and the rhythms of life that would allow for that? Because, well, Jesus tells us in Matthew 5:28-30 that if something causes us to sin, we cut it off and gouge it out. And so we cut off and gouge out the bits of it, like, hey, I need to not have an app to my phone. I don't have an app store. I have Covenant Eyes on my browser. So the app store is behind parental controls, and I had a friend set that. And now I have, and all my apps are set to grayscale. So it's dumb. No social media on the device itself. I use social media as part of my job. My day-to-day living is done through social media. And I don't have access to that through my phone. I don't have email on my phone. It's about as dumb as it can be, but I still show up in family texts in blue. So that's great. With that in mind, is it safe? Is my child ready? We need to have that conversation, find a way to say yes to the kids who are asking and are showing responsibility, and a way to direct that decision towards healthy choices and really looking at reset, saying, hey, I've noticed your video games, your music, your shows, your social media platforms, one or more of these impede your relationships, emotions, sleep, enjoyment, time. This isn't a good choice for you right now. Like, you're not ready for it and it's not going well, because that then goes into our third of, if it's safe and our child is ready, then we need to make sure the fruit is good. I gave one of our children access to an innocuous resource. It was tool tech. It works great. This is going fine. And yet, when my child would engage this technology, their attitude would change. Not only would there be a changed attitude, there'd be a change perception of time, an inability to stay within the timeline, and a changing in contentment. We're no longer satisfied to have a diverse array of interests, but every time there's a free moment, it's, hey, can I engage this technology? Now, again, this is a tool technology that is not pursuing my child, that is not unfairly setting goals for them, that operates at an extremely slow pace with a very high level of effort, and yet it is changing my child's passion. I've heard of this from parents, specifically when talking about programming and coding for certain young people, that they will get so locked in that their brains, they'll enter flow, and this child will be gone for hours until someone breaks it. Like, they won't stop for food. They won't stop for sleep. They won't stop for other activities they used to love. It's just this one thing that's all consuming. And while that is beautiful that this child can be that locked in, we also need to recognize that we're called to be diverse. We are called to be a part of the world God has planted us in. And yes, that kind of focus can make you excellent at the thing you're working at. And it is not worth becoming excellent and losing your soul. Like, stay a healthy, well-rounded person. Do not allow this particular passion to consume everything else that God has given you, including your relationships and your other interests and your time with the Lord and your sleep, because God gives rest to the righteous. Like, that is a gift from God. Use it. Sabbath is a gift. It was made for man. So we are to allow ourselves to step back from the good works he's given us to do and rest in the Lord, to take that time to pray, to take that time to connect, to take that time to step back and be a little bored. Because while work can be great, we can also find our purpose in it, and we can distract ourselves with that next attainable goal. And sometimes that's not the best. So the reason I bring that up, my son used one of my children, used a safe tech that he was ready for that had a bad result. And we had a conversation and said, you know what? We're taking a step back. This is going away. We're going to do a different version. We'll find another thing to say yes to. It's not going to be digital. It's going to be analog, and we're taking X amount of time. And for us, it was going to be a full week. And we're past the week, and it's been fine. And we haven't even introduced the digital version again. But that was a parenting decision based on the fruit. It wasn't producing love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and goodness and gentleness and faithfulness and self-control. It was producing anxiety and frustration and dissension and, well, fixation, but I'm not going to say that that's one of the bad fruits, but it was a fixation that took from the good fruit, that took from the diverse interests that God had given him, and instead was pile driving him, basically, and making an obstacle to his engagement in the rest of life. So parents, as we strive to raise kids who love God and use tech, it's intimidating to look at this next stage of life and think about what academics may look like for them. When you're thinking about college, consider George Fox University for your children because of three things. First, it's going to give you a more intimate, known environment where they have a focus on being known personally, academically, and spiritually. Your child will grow in their faith. 93% of undergrad students at George Fox last year, through the 2025 academic year, said that being at George Fox has helped them grow in their relationship with Jesus. We also want them to grow academically, which means being a part of a university with rigorous academic standards and opportunities to be engaged. They have a nationally recognized engineering, nursing, and education programs, as well as chances to study abroad here within the U.S. and then internationally. And finally, personally, to be part of a vibrant campus atmosphere where you can play intramural sports or part of their NCAA Division III athletic programs with 23 sports available. The goal here is to go to a place that's going to support your goals, not try to make you support theirs. To have that goal be to raise you up to be all God's called you to be, and to truly equip your young person with in my case, my sons or my daughter, to love God, and then from their love of God to go wherever God has called them. And that includes being equipped with a degree that'll help them do that, to be missionally equipped to love and serve others, to lead where God has planted them, and to know the gospel for themselves, to be able to share it with others. So George Fox University is an amazing resource for our kids, for our community here in the Northwest, and for anyone who's looking to raise up a young person who can love God and from that, love others. When we look at this technology, we ask, is it safe? Is my child ready? Is the fruit good? In doing that, we can then make decisions about video games because we can say, yep, the system's appropriate for my child and my child is ready. He or she is responsible in these other areas. And they play and go, you know what? They have more love. They have more self-control. They have more joy. Great. That's very cool. And I've seen that in my own life. Even as someone who ended as an adult being a really unhealthy gamer, there were seasons of my life where video games were really a valuable part of friendships. We were friends. We happened to play video games sometimes, and then we would put the games down and go do other stuff. And it was an extension of our friendship, not an isolation of it. And then as an adult, as life got busier and people got further away and the internet really picked up, I started gaming more on my own and realizing, why would I spend time with people when I could just do this? Yes, video games became unhealthy, but they weren't always negative in our life. It's not just a yay, nay on video games. It's, okay, which games are we playing? Which platforms fit? And then for this child, does this make sense? Are they playing for fun or are they playing for purpose? Like they enjoy life, so they happen to play a game, or are they playing in order to enjoy life because everything else is terrible and this is the only thing that brings them satisfaction? Very important little twist and a good talking point if you happen to see that. But the same is true with social media. Are these people who love you and who care for your best and will push back because they know you in real life? And if you close down the server, they'll give you a phone call. And if you don't pick up the phone, they're going to show up at school or at your house. Like, those are friends. They can actually check on you. There is the possibility, and I understand people listening to this have digital friends that are real friends. And I can appreciate that. Just like I can appreciate people have had good experiences on Roblox, but it's inherently unsafe for young children because of their decisions to make profit over the safety of minors. Or like a relational chatbot. Some people have had good conversation and experience with that, but it's inherently unsafe. And just because it's been good once doesn't mean it's designed to be safe or a good idea for young people. With that in mind, we're looking at things like social media and video games and smartphones and streaming services and music. And we want to make sure that these resources are safe for our children, that our children are ready for it, and that the fruit is good. And if it's not good, that becomes our talking point. It's not a point to fight with our children about tech. It's a point for us to fight for them. That we are going to say, hey, I love you a lot, and I'm seeing this seems to be a conflict. And you can say the opposite. If they are using it and it's producing more amazing things in them, then say that. Be like, wow, I love when you play that game, or when you're on that platform, or when you listen to that music, you have more joy. You have more love. You have more peace. You have more patience. And I love that in you because I am seeing you look more like Jesus, and I'm seeing what God's doing in you. So please keep using this. Let's find ways to make sure this stays safe. What would this look like to share with others and help them be good friends and help them grow and produce good fruit? And how can we be aware of using this well around those who maybe don't use it well, so that we can understand their limits and be respectful of them as a weaker brother and a weaker sister, that this might not be something they can participate in. We can find other ways to be around, like people like me who can't maybe play the video game, but would still love to see you. So how can we get off the video games that you're okay with and come spend time with me, because I can't join you in that space. So this is my encouragement for you parents. I hope that you were able to think today about, okay, what tech are we using? Is it tool or drool tech? This is our first question for reflection. You can pause this podcast and talk it out right now, but what technology are we using? Where's the tool tech? Where's the drool tech? What gets the majority of our time? Then we can say, what tech do we use that is the safest? What tech are we beginning to take some responsibility extensions on? That, hey, this maybe isn't inherently safe, but you've earned the opportunity because you are, second part, ready for it. You are ready. You're of the appropriate age. This content is appropriate for you. You've shown the appropriate responsibility in real life. Really looking at that reset of relationships and emotions and sleep, enjoyment, and time. You are growing in this at an age-appropriate manner. Yeah, we all have good days and bad days, but we're talking the trajectory is going up. It's not a steep dive. And then once I give it to you, that trajectory continues to grow. It isn't plummeting all of a sudden. It isn't spiking every time, or spiking downward every time you, enjoy a particular type of technology. And in doing that, you're getting the words to fight for your kids, not just with them. You're getting the confidence with which to address these conversations and to make sure you're using the best tech well, because that is my hope for you. If you have any questions, I hope you will reach out to me, nathan@gospeltech.net, or online, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube at Love God Use Tech, and that you'll join us next week as we continue this conversation about how we can love God and use tech. I'll talk to you then.